Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matthew Leal. I'm a pre-sale solutions architect from WEI. I'm going to be moderating today's session, which is titled Navigating Today's Digital Threat Landscape. We are still waiting on one of our presenters, so we're going to change up the order a little bit here. But in a moment, you're going to hear from three excellent speakers, and they're going to touch on a mix of topics. They're going to walk through some of the latest strategies and technologies in the realm of platform security. The goal here is get you all thinking and inform you on what's happening at the leading edge in this space. So as we all know, within IT, cyber threats are constantly evolving and doing so at an accelerated pace, right? Whether it's ransomware or supply chain attacks, the vectors for which threat actors are finding their way in are constantly shifting and adapting, and it seems like it's doing so at as fast a pace as we can provide protections against them. So the next hour and a half or so, we're going to explore what it is that organizations can do to sort of level up, and instead of reacting to these threats, how can we deploy proactive measures through leveraging the latest cutting edge technologies available from the likes of HPE and Intel. But also beyond the technology, to stress how important it is, the human element of it all, and how without the proper people and processes in place, having the shiniest new technology alone, that's not enough to meet today's security standards. So, like I mentioned, we're going to mix up the order a little bit. So first, we're going to hear from our speaker from HPE, Dominic Santo. Dominic is a compute specialist over at HPE. And he's going to dive into the latest features of the HPE ProLiant Gen12 compute portfolio, and showing how HPE is continuing to advance the industry, delivering the world's most secure industry standard x86 servers, again, powered by Intel. Then we'll hear from Daniel Farias from Intel. Dan's a technical sales specialist, and he's going to help uncover how Intel is enabling business opportunity through platform security, starting from the hardware all the way through the firmware, and how they're enabling trusted execution environments. And then fingers crossed, if we can get Adam on the line here, we're going to hear from our keynote, Adam Levin, who probably should be at the end anyway, being the keynote speaker. But Adam is a nationally recognized voice in the spaces of cybersecurity, privacy, identity theft, and fraud. He brings with him decades of experience both in consumer rights and business risk, and he's going to be weighing in on the evolving adversarial landscape and go into what types of attacks organizations are facing, some of the best practices for safeguarding against them. So at the end of today's session, we're going to leave some time for some Q&A. If you have any burning questions, I do urge you to use the Q&A feature within Teams. At the end, there will be time to come off mute if you want to ask your question live. If not, please use the Q&A features available in the chat. During the presentation, I will ask that everyone remain on mute and with their cameras off to prevent any unwanted disruptions. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Dominic from HPE. Dominic, take it away.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Matt. So today, I want to spend a little bit of time kind of talking about HPE and our, next level security that's been culminated here in Generation 12. We don't just sell servers, we sell a secure future inside of HPE. And that's kind of what I want to get into. A lot of times you just look at these little pretty pizza boxes and you think that it's just going to be something to run that workload, when in fact it's a lot more important than that. And I hope to open your eyes here. So I want to start off with first about talking about the evolution of security in the HPE ProLiant family. So our huge, really big step, really making us and cementing us as a leader with compute security came with Generation 10, with the introduction of ILO 5 and the Silicon Root of Trust. So this is a very big step, and the reason why it sets us apart from all the other manufacturers is because HPE, we have HPE labs, we have guys in white lab coats still researching, developing and allowing us to manufacture our own technologies, starting with the ILO management processor that's built into our ProLiant platform. Nobody else has this ability. They purchase a third-party OEM's management controller that they put in their servers. This allows us to create an immutable foundation of trust that I'm going to kind of go into a little more in the future. As we've kind of migrated and evolved, some of the things that we've added is a really secure way to not only manage your secure platform, but the platform itself being secure, adding trusted platform modules. The cryptography assistant inside the server is now 100% integrated into every system, because security is no longer an option. It has to be built in. And now with Generation 12, we partner with Intel. Now with our ILO 7, we've really expanded the root of trust with a secure enclave, which gives us a lot more capabilities and puts us on the forefront of protections required by the government coming up soon. And I'm going to kind of touch on these as we go through this presentation. Now, what I want to point out on this particular slide is this all builds upon itself to create a rock solid foundation. If you're building a skyscraper, you're trying to house a lot of things. What you don't want to do is build it on a bunch of sand. You're going to create a very sturdy foundation of cement deep into the ground, and that is going to make a firm area to be able to build up and out and be confident that everything is going to work as it's supposed to. This is what the ILO management controller gives us. And it starts even before it's soldered onto the motherboard. With our trusted supply chain, we have vetted workers both in the factory, also in the logistics of getting those completed servers to you. So if you need that type of security, we have it available to you. So throughout the entire build process to when it lands and is racked and stacked in your facilities, you can all have a secure person doing that. So starting with that, we kind of build up with the silicon-based root of trust, which I'm going to talk about. It's a feature that other people claim to have, but nobody has it as we do. And I'm going to kind of prove that to you momentarily. Now, we've added in Generation 12 the secure enclave, which allows us to evade rootkits, data theft. It allows us to avoid even physical tampering and chip clipping, which is a new attack vector that's coming out if people can get access to your physical hardware. Now, we have quantum resistance built into Generation 12. We're already ready for things that are coming 5-10 years down the road, because we know everybody is going to be using their servers longer. This secure enclave also gives us that FIPS 140-3 level 3 certification, which we are the first vendor to have this available. And then once that system is booted with that foundation all the way into the cloud, being able to manage it securely and be able to maintain a secure baseline amongst all your managed systems, really everything helps and adds to it. So post-quantum cryptography. You've probably heard in your various ways you get news or in LinkedIn, that type of thing, how quantum computing is the next breakthrough, and it's getting closer and closer to mainstream, right? So what does that allow people to do? Well, they can brute force and attack passwords and guess something that I know the last time I set up an account on some app or something, and you start typing your password, and it kind of like there's a little box at the bottom that says, oh, that would take 10,000 years to hack or something to that effect, right? I'm sure you all have seen that. Well, if you put quantum computing at that task, it could do something that would take 10 years in like 15 seconds because of just the new paradigm of how it computes things. This is a big threat to all of our systems here today. So we have to develop new ways to encrypt and put passwords in there to protect against this. HPE ProLiant Compute Gen 12 has the ability with quantum resistant cryptography algorithms to save you today. This is super important because we all know that we're all using servers longer, the refresh cycles are longer than they ever were. So think in the future, what you're buying today is going to affect your business well into 2030 very much. So use this. It might cost a couple more dollars today, but you'll be protected in the future. And the cost of being attacked nowadays, both not just losing the data, but losing your customers' trust, the bad publicity you get in the news, all of that adds up, and it's very costly. And it's nothing compared to spending an extra couple $100 or $1,000 to protect yourself with something that you're going to be using for the next bunch of years. So I mentioned earlier, staying ahead of those cyber attacks, CNSA 2.0, that is one of the new government standards where cryptography is going to have to be, quantum resistant. It's new algorithms that they require. And anything new the government is going to purchase from the year 2027 and on must reach this standard. HPE in 2025 already meets this standard with the ILO 7 and our secure enclave technology. That secure enclave also gives us FIPS 140-3 level 3. That's a mouthful. We are certified for that already. I mean, we have all the prerequisites to be certified. We're in the certification process. It's just a matter of time for our government to do stuff, and apparently it's probably all on hold at the moment, but hopefully that moves forward soon. Nobody else is in line yet. So I can say, we will absolutely be first for that. So keep this type of stuff in mind. By 2030, the government will be phasing out any servers that do not meet this standard. So this is the type of thing, your choices you make today can impact your exposure in the future. And that's what HPE, that's because we have our own guys developing this technology. We're not beholden to whatever some third party develops in this space. We have the people developing, manufacturing, and integrating it into our own systems, okay? So the secure enclave. This secure enclave is a subset inside of our management controller that is going to basically create another perimeter inside the system that is not physically accessible from the outside, okay? So this is what gives us that FIPS 130-3 certification. The algorithms that are in that security border, that blue dotted line around there, those algorithms are certified quantum resistant, and that is going to take quantum computers a lot longer to decode than anything that's using our current techniques. So keep in mind, this is inside a management chip that is guarded from the bottom up with varying levels of security. I mentioned before that this ILO processor is created by HPE. What that allows us to do that other people can't do with an OEM chip is we put a secure hash. It's like a string of code that we use to verify any of the firmware that's being installed or run on the motherboard, okay? It's burned into hardware, so you can't tamper with that after the fact. When you receive code from HPE and you go to install it, it's verified by that hardware hash that's built into our management controller. The other people do that by software. The same way the firmware can be compromised by somebody hacking and fiddling with that, that's the same way that somebody could mess with the validation hash that could then say that tampered with firmware is actually, good when it's not. And as hackers evolve and get better, they're going to cover their tracks. I think anytime you read a new article about some new attack that's happening, the reason that it got through is because they've learned new ways to cover their tracks. And this is something that they will not be able to surmount. So once our ILO processor then is able to say, okay, hey, the management controller is running good code, then we can check the PCIe devices inside the system, all the chips that do things on the motherboard. We can look at the Intel chips also and make sure that they're also running certified known good code. And then we can hand that off to the BIOS. At this stage, everyone on this call is running some kind of UEFI secure boot that checks and makes sure the BIOS is good, and then securely hands that off to the operating system so that you know you have a safe boot. Well, our processor is basically a mini computer on the motherboard. So if it determines that anything has been tampered with in any way, what we'll do is we're going to, freeze the computer there, alert you that something has been compromised. So again, no negative processing is now happening in the meantime. And we can do that at boot. Most server manufacturers do that type of check on boot. HPE, through the ILO management chip, has the ability to also do that while the server's running. The last thing you want to do is reboot your computer during a maintenance window and then realize that that server has now been compromised, and you kind of have to start off with, hopefully you have a good disaster recovery or recovery point objective to get you where you were before you just rebooted it. If you find yourself for whatever reason in that case with a ProLiant Generation 12 server, this particular ASIC is going to be able to reach into a secure repository also in the motherboard. One of the things here that is also really nice, it helps eliminate vulnerabilities associated with external storage. You can use storage inside the secure enclave to then put known good firmwares back in place if you want. It could be done automatically. You can also just have it pause the server and keep it paused. You can do forensics, because that also is important to know where and how you may have got compromised. This is all how we've really thought. Maybe 10 years ago, we kind of got to a part where, a lot of the hardware has become commoditized. You go, oh, I just need a 16-core server with a bunch of RAM. Everything's so fast. Who cares about what stickers on the front? We have been working a long time at HPE to differentiate ourselves with built-in security from the ground up through the entire life cycle of the server. And because we make our own management controller, we are able to achieve that. And there's a lot of imitators, and imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but nobody else has the ability to have that validation key burnt into the silicone at the factory. Everyone else does it in software. Now, just because we have all this stuff built into the platform, if you can't see it, if you can't manage it, if you can't monitor it, it's very difficult, especially the more sites you have, the more geographically dispersed these places are, the more difficult it is to make sure that all the BIOS settings are right. You might have this fancy ILO, security chip on your motherboard, but if it's misconfigured or missing the proper, security algorithms enabled, if your host interfaces aren't locked down, you've reduced those attack vectors, then you're still cooked, right? And not in a good way. So with compute ops management, this is something we brought out around generation 11, and it's going strong. There's a very high adoption of it. because what it allows you to do is put your servers into groups, provide a security baseline, and monitor and make sure that everything is up to snuff on an easy notification basis. Now, one of the very big things that people don't think about is there's a zero-day attack. It's now day one. That attack is known. It's out in the open. All the hardware vendors are now updating their firmware to patch that vulnerability out of the firmware. If all of your servers aren't being updated, maybe you manage a retail store and you just have a bunch of cashiers. You don't have IT staff in every location. Maybe it's a bunch of gas stations, the same type of thing. There's not IT staff to go around. And firmware is one of those things that you don't let anyone just hit the next, okay, finish, because if something goes wrong, the server's bricked. It doesn't boot. With Compute Ops Management, you have a secure way to update the firmware. And not only can you update it faster and more secure, because we get an inventory of the options installed. If you've ever installed a service pack for ProLiant, you know that when your typical download is for every supported option in that platform. It can easily be 9 gigabytes. So Compute Ops Management saves you downloading 9 gigabytes when all you need might be 1 gigabyte for your particular configuration. So it makes updating firmware 5 times faster. It saves you from sending people out on site where travel costs have gone up. Maybe it's so far away that would save you hotel costs, travel costs. Your engineers like their family, they don't want to be away from home. It really saves you money and allows you confidence knowing that everything is set properly and secure as much as possible. So I mentioned trusted supply chain. This is another way, since we have control of our entire supply chain. It really came up from COVID, right? Having the ability to check things out. We have vetted, we have engineers that are properly have the security clearances to be able to build. Now create an entire rack, use our sanctioned logistics company to make it directly safe to your data center. And then really, I want to make sure that the HPE doesn't just make servers. We can help you secure that through its entire life cycle. And that includes decommissioning. There's a lot of important data on those servers, and you want to make sure that when it leaves your site, the data doesn't leave your site. I know I had got a cell phone and it broke. It kind of messed up the SD card. I was actually both happy and sad to know that you could take a broken SD card that no longer is being able to be read, use a flash recovery program, and see everything that's been deleted and read that SD card as if Windows still saw it, right? So because of that, we have things like secure one-button erase. You can go into ILO. You can use a NIST-level crypto erase with one button and wipe all the data so that there's no way for it to be recovered. So you're confident knowing that your systems cannot be harvested once they leave your facility. And we can do it for you, and we can give you a document that certifies the destruction of it. So hopefully I've been able to kind of open your eyes and let you know that HPE doesn't just make servers. We make servers with security built in from the ground up. Before the year even assembled, we have things to keep your stuff secure. So with that, I'd like to pass it along to our partner Intel, and they can tell you how even the CPUs are always working to make your system run. Daniel, take it away.
Thank you, Dominic. Nice to meet you all. It's a pleasure. I'm an engineer at Intel, and today we will try to explain you what our security capabilities in our Xeon 6 processor-powered HPE Gen12 servers. So with further prelude, let's jump into our presentation. Because of our foundational position in the compute stack and our position in the industry, we look at security as both a business opportunity and our responsibility. In today's threat landscape, security has never been more important, both digitally and physically. The attack surface is growing with the advancements of AI and the edge, but security threats are continuously evolving, both in number and in complexity. New attacks are emerging, and existing threats are being modified to work in new ways. And of course, the risk to customers are costly. A security breach could result not only in regulatory fines, but also loss of sensitive data, business downtime, and even reputational damage. Security is a business imperative, and customers are looking to trusted advisors to support one security approach across all security domains. Our solutions are designed to reduce the attack surface, protect sensitive and regulated data, and leverage AI to detect those threats in both the cyber and physical security domains. Intel with HPE can help you build a zero trust strategy, establishing hardware as the root of trust with capabilities designed to provide the context you need to implement proper security controls. We humbly believe we can deliver value for you, not only endpoint security, network security, information and data security, but also in physical security, thanks to our industry-leading product security assurance that is built on a foundational of trust. The need for foundational hardware-level security to supplement software-only security has never been greater. And today we will discuss how we, Intel and HPE, can help you achieve your security outcomes with our latest Xeon 6 platforms powering those HPE Gen12 servers. Intel Xeon 6 processors with performance cores were designed to tackle the evolving challenges of modern data centers. They deliver substantial performance improvements for demanding workloads such as AI, high-performance compute, and databases, for example, ensuring efficient processing power. Those processors balance high performance with low power consumption, helping data centers meet service level agreements while optimizing energy use. Scalability is a key advantage, offering the best cost per operation for AI across various domains and deployment scenarios. But today's topic is hardware-based security, which features are integrated to protect sensitive data, addressing critical security concerns in today's infrastructure. So let me present you our security engines, which are embedded in our Intel Xeon platform, which puts data into action while helping to protect it private and protect it with different domains and technologies. Confidential computing technologies, helping protect data while the workload is active. These are our SGX and TDX, which will be further addressed on this presentation, but also workload acceleration technologies, such as Quick Assist and our crypto acceleration instructions, embedded in the CPU microarchitecture, helping reduce the performance impact of a strong, pervasive data encryption. Of course, as Dominic told you, advanced protection technologies helping protect the integrity of the platform and resist software-based attacks by enforcing safe software behaviors with hardware is another pillar. So let's jump in to the first one, workload protection technologies and confidential computing. Confidential computing delivers three substantial functions: isolation. Confidential computing uses silicon-based technology to create a hardware-enforced trusted execution environment known as TEE. Sensitive data should only be decrypted inside the TEE. Only software inside this TEE trust boundary can access the data, creating a technological separation from all software and admins outside this trust boundary. This includes trust cloud providers, management stack, hypervisors, and infrastructure admins, for example. Encryption and control. With confidential computing, authorized data owners hold the keys to their data. Outside the TEE, the data is encrypted, and inside the TEE, only the authorized software or parties can view it. The cloud provider or server admin cannot access your data in plain text. And lastly, verification. How do you know your TEE is genuine and function properly? Confidential computing technology includes cryptographic verification that the TEE is genuine, updated within policy, and depending on the technology, can verify the software running in the TEE is exactly what expected. This process is called attestation. Confidential computing on Intel Xeon enables organizations to activate sensitive or regulated data by helping keep it private and protected with hardware-based security. And as I told you, Intel SGX, one of our technologies, and the first one we will address today, offers the smallest trust boundary. Confidential data access is restricted only to the attested application code. The enclave size is up to 512 gigabytes per processor, and with Xeon 6, our enhanced Rowhammer protection with cryptographic memory integrity option introduces AES 256 encryption, which is quantum resistant. Intel TDX, or Trust Domain Extensions, means virtual machine isolation from cloud stacks, admins, and other tenants. It was generally available starting with 5th gen Xeon processors, and we're bringing it updated to Xeon 6, with hardware support for live migration of trust domains and integration with AES 256 encryption for quantum-resistant cryptography, supporting up to 2,048 encryption keys for those trust domains with Intel TDX embedded solutions. In addition to a trusted execution environment, TEE, confidential computing relies on attestation to prove that the TEE is genuine and operating properly. Intel Cyber Trust Authority is Intel's attestation and platform's integrity service and software that you can depend on and trust on. In Xeon 6, we sum to the mentioned technologies which were available in prior generations, Intel TDX Connect, the ultimate evolution of integrated confidential AI. Intel TDX Connect provides hardware-protected connectivity between the trusted execution environment, the TEs on the CPU and the GPU, enabling an end-to-end protection, direct memory sharing, and more performance than the bounce buffer. Effectively, TDX Connect enables the CPU and the GPU to form one logical TEE, adding flexibility, functionality, and performance in the AI realm. But our security engines are not only about confidential computing. Let's talk about workload acceleration. In the past, encryption was a tool primarily for protecting communications from one party to another outside their firewall, such as a business and a customer, for example. Encryption inside an organization was typically rare. Driven by security awareness, privacy regulations, and leakage risks, encryption is pervasive throughout computing operations today. Applications within the same data center encrypt their communications. Data placed in storage is encrypted, and cryptographic operations are used like everything else, from user logins to content delivery and more. And in addition to its pervasiveness, encryption is getting increasingly stronger to meet quantum-resistant recommendations, as Dominic told you. And as we get closer to real quantum computers, which hold the potential to crack much of today's mainstream crypto algorithms, the encryption trend is delivering and definitely pointing to a more stronger, faster method of securing data. Intel QAT is our response, a purpose-built accelerator that increases the performance of crypto operations and compression, supporting in Xeon 6 AES 256 encryption, which is quantum resistance and helps protect store now and decrypt later attacks. It is designed for high throughput use cases, including network encryption, VPNs, content delivery systems, and more. And in Xeon 6, we see some TCO improvements, higher crypto throughput while bringing CPU cores, and higher power efficiency in this generation. The last pillar was our technologies for advanced protection and software safety. By being the foundation of the whole technology stack, hardware can play a key role in mitigating many types of software-based attacks. Most software-based attacks target the large attack surface represented by the applications, OS, and hypervisors, which can constitute millions of lines of code. With targets this large and complex, vulnerabilities can often be found. But many of these attacks rely on exploits that can be blocked by hardware. Hardware can enforce only safe, intended behavior of software and provide software developers hardware-backed mechanisms to govern execution, access, and change policies. Some attacks target the deeper foundational software of the platform, such as the BIOS or component firmware, in an effort to evade that security software and monitor high up on the stack. Our hardware can also address many of these type of attacks by creating a chain of trust rooted in silicon that can help the platform load only good known software and put into a trustworthy state. One of these technologies is CET, Intel Control Flow Enforcement Technology, a hardware-based code integrity mechanisms to protect against return, jump, and call-oriented programming attacks, where attackers use snippets of legitimate programs to execute malicious outcomes. So, in a few words, our technologies in the data center space enables two main categories of benefits. First are the technologies that help harden your infrastructure against the attacks and help maintain integrity and uptime. This type of protection are the classic security on defense technologies to help keep you safe. But at Intel and HPE, security technologies doesn't just need to harden your perimeter. We offer technologies that give you the tools to transformative applications or services that provide new value while keeping data confidential. These security on offense technologies include our crypto acceleration features as well as confidential computing. The Intel Xeon platform with built-in security engines are available in HPE Gen12 servers. They can be used to help power new services, amplify the value of transactions, help guard against financial crime, shorten research and development cycles, and drive the progress of applications where sensitive, valuable, or regulated data is in play. The future belongs to those with data, and we, Intel and HPE, can get you there sooner. Thank you very much for your time, and open to questions in the later Q&A space. I think it's time for Adam, if he's already available.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it. Yeah, so now we're going to turn things over to our keynote speaker, Adam Levin. Like I said before, Adam is a nationally recognized voice in the spaces of cybersecurity, privacy, identity theft, and fraud. And again, he's bringing decades of experience to the table here. So I'll hand the mic over to you, Adam. Please take it away.
Well, thank you very much, and I apologize for the delay, the joys of technology we all face. You know, I was going to start with a question, which was, what keeps you up at night? But then I think back to about a year ago on our podcast, What the Hack. Our guest was Jen Easterly, who, as you know, is the former director of the Cybersecurity Infrastructure and Security Agency. And I said, Director, what keeps you up at night? And she said, well, the better question is really what gets me up in the morning. Well, I got to tell you that I know what keeps us up at night. I mean, for many of us, it's the fear of the unknown. It's the fear of what we know all too well. In today's digital world, threats aren't lurking in the shadows. They're knocking at our front door every hour of every day. And I want to thank WEI and HPE and Intel for inviting me to share some scare and harvest some hope. And today I want to challenge the way we look at cybersecurity. You guys remember the Fram oil filter commercial? Pay me now or pay me a whole lot later. Well, if you think, and there are some who do, that cybersecurity is a luxury or a cost center, think again. It's a business imperative, a boardroom priority, and in some cases, it's a matter of life or death. The rules of engagement have changed. The battlefield is everywhere, in our inboxes, our supply chains, our smart devices, even our refrigerators. Attackers are relentless, creative, and increasingly automated. Defenders must be perfect. Now, cybersecurity isn't about building higher walls. It's about developing and implementing smarter strategies. It's about understanding that every organization, no matter the size, no matter the industry, is a target. Now, once breaches were seen as exceptions, but today they become the third certainty in life behind death and taxes. How well we prepare will define not just our security, but perhaps our very survival. The Cold War is over. We're now in a cyber war that's fought daily across industries and borders, without front lines or ceasefires. Unlike nuclear weapons, there are no treaties or deterrence regimes with cyber weapons. The rules are different, asymmetric, and unfair. Now, let's take a minute to look at our most powerful adversaries, nation-states. Russia has used cyber attacks as a tool of warfare and propaganda for decades. Beyond well-chronicled attempts to interfere with elections across the globe, Russian hackers have targeted government agencies, power grids, banking systems, Fortune 500 companies, and media outlets to conduct espionage, steal data, and foster chaos. China has burrowed into every corner of our critical infrastructure. The Chinese Communist Party, they've long viewed hacking as a vehicle for state-sponsored development. Its hackers have systematically engaged in theft of everything from intellectual property and aerospace designs to pharmaceutical formulas. North Korea has augmented its taxes and tariffs with the spoils of cybercrime. The Lazarus Group, which operates out of China but works for the Hermit Kingdom, has stolen billions in cryptocurrency to fund its nuclear development program and other regime priorities. Iran has used cyber attacks to disrupt and retaliate. Iranian groups have targeted financial institutions, oil companies, and critical infrastructure in the U.S. and the Middle East. Now, while all these countries have different objectives, they have the same strategy: use cyber as a low-cost, high-impact weapon against their adversaries. Then there are government-sponsored hacking groups and independent criminal contractors with names like Scattered Spider, Lapsus, Lockbit, Darkside, Shiny Hunters, Black Cat, and the Crimson Collective. Now, while they sound like comic book villains, they're relentless, sophisticated, and obsessively profit-driven. They're cyber-armed and dangerous. Now, some groups are loose confederation of hackers. Others are more corporate. They have payrolls. They recruit talent. They have R&D divisions to develop new malware. Some even offer customer service desks to negotiate ransoms or help victims pay in cryptocurrency. DarkSide was behind the 2021 Colonial Pipeline incident, where a single compromised password to a VPN led to a ransomware attack that ultimately forced the company to shut down fuel deliveries to the entire east coast of the U.S. And as you remember, this caused a lot of panic buying and gas shortages. Scattered Spider, the masters of turning your help desk into their privileged credentials candy store, brought MGM resorts to its knees in 2023. The Black Cat Group launched a ransomware attack against Change Healthcare in 2024 that disrupted our healthcare system, delayed claims and payments, exposed sensitive patient data, and impacted over 192 million Americans. Now, Brian Krebs reported recently that a newly formed confederation of Lapsus, Scattered Spider, and Shiny Hunters recently launched a website threatening to expose over 1 billion records that were siphoned from scores of Fortune 500 corporations acquired by way of a voice phishing campaign that tricked targets into connecting malicious apps to their organization's Salesforce portals. Now, this one-to-many approach is pretty reminiscent of the 2020 Cozy Bear attack on SolarWinds. You remember SolarWinds? They're the tech company that boasted the most complex password ever, SolarWinds 123. Multiple federal agencies and numerous companies discovered suddenly that they had unwittingly installed network backdoors for Russian hackers by simply updating their software on the SolarWinds Orion platform. In 2025, cybercrime has become a multi-trillion-dollar global industry. Reported ransomware payments alone exceeded $1 billion last year, and that doesn't include the very real cost of downtime, lost productivity, legal fees, regulatory penalties and fines, and brand damage. Cyber insurance, which is meant to be a safety net, has become a ransom payment pipeline. Criminals know that big companies have big insurance policies, so they tailor ransom demands accordingly. In adversarial nations, criminals who attack Western companies, they're rarely prosecuted. In fact, many are celebrated. But in the past few years, U.S. law enforcement agencies have joined forces with Interpol and nailed a few of these guys. So the question is, why are we so vulnerable? And the answer is simple. Our attackable surface has experienced a supernova-like expansion. Once, security was about defending castles. There were walls, moats, drawbridges, and keeps. Defenders had a pretty good idea of where things were coming from. Today, these castles have been subsumed by sprawling cities of interconnected devices, apps, vendors, partners, employees, and cloud services, millions of entry points, all active all the time. Now, the Internet of Things has also exponentially expanded our exposure. Billions of connected devices, from cars and cameras to TVs and thermostats, they're now online. Each collects data. Each has software. Each is a potential gateway for an attacker. Studies show that more than half of IoT devices have known vulnerabilities, and the cheaper the device, the less likely it was designed and built to any kind of security standard. Okay, now this is one of my favorite cautionary tales. In 2018, a casino was hacked through an internet-connected fish tank thermometer. Let that one sink in. Hackers accessed the network through the aquarium's temperature monitoring system and then stole customer data. If a fish tank can be an entry point, anything can. Which brings me to my next point. Every digital footprint is forever. Every search, every purchase, every location ping, that creates a data trail, and I try to explain that to my 13-year-old every day. Those footprints never simply fade away. They're collected, aggregated, sold, resold, and far too often stolen. These days, hackers don't have to break into your systems. They can just buy your information on the dark web or find a friendly data broker. And if all this wasn't enough, say hello to the new elephant in the room, artificial intelligence. AI is not a future trend or a buzzword. It's already reshaping the cyber battlefield in real time, and it's very much a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it enables defenders to detect threats faster and respond more intelligently than ever. On the other, it's supercharging cybercriminal capabilities and helping to facilitate attacks at scale and sophistication unlike anything we've ever seen before. The question is no longer if AI will be used in cyber, but which side will harness it more effectively. AI has amplified the capabilities of cybercriminals. They're adopting AI-powered tools at breakneck speed, leveraging AI's power to find vulnerabilities and craft exploits far more efficiently. And in 2025, there has been an embarrassment of vulnerability riches. In just the first half of this year, more than 20,000 were disclosed, with nearly 35% of them having publicly available exploit code. Finally, some businesses are paying attention. I mean, what does it tell you when Apple has just doubled its bug bounty from 1 million to 2 million? AI impacts all levels of cybercrime and ratchets up threats across the board, from social engineering to malware. And let me give you some examples. Generative AI has slashed the time needed to craft convincing spear phishing scams from 16 hours to roughly 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Emails are no longer obvious or clumsy. They're polished. They can mimic the way a boss or colleague writes. Hackers can instruct AI to use the way an organization normally communicates to make the bait extremely convincing. Because modern AI languages can fluently create content in any language or dialect, criminals can launch flawless spear phishing and business email compromise attacks in English, Mandarin, Spanish, Arabic, whatever works. Global organizations now face highly localized attacks written to sound like native speakers. Markets that were previously off limits due to linguistic and cultural nuances are now wide open to attack. But perhaps the most insidious development, this to me the scariest, is AI-generated malware that can rewrite its own code. In the past, defenders could identify malware by recognizing static code signatures put in place to verify the source and authors of a program. Researchers really recently demonstrated a proof of concept polymorphic AI malware, and I think it was ESAT, that continually regenerates its code while preserving its initial purpose. Every time it runs, it looks different to antivirus scanners. This means traditional defenses based on known signatures or predictable patterns are becoming less effective. In essence, the malware evolves like a living organism. So as defenders, we're now forced to hunt by behavior and intent as code-focused detection grows unreliable. Now let's talk about deepfakes. AI's ability to fake voices and video has introduced a terrifying new vector for fraud. A disturbing example occurred early last year. The Hong Kong subsidiary of global engineering firm Arup was conned out of $25 million by attackers using AI-generated deepfake. An employee joined what he believed was a video conference with the company's CFO and finance team. He saw their faces, he heard their voices, and he was instructed to urgently transfer funds. In reality, every person on that call, other than the target employee, was a deepfake. The voices, the faces, they were perfectly synthesized by AI. And they were so convincing, he wired the money without hesitation. None of the firm's systems were hacked. None of the firm's systems were hacked. Instead, the hackers weaponized human trust with, quote, technology-enhanced social engineering. Now, this case underscores how AI can facilitate highly sophisticated impersonation scams, making us question whether the face on the screen is real or not. And in CrowdStrike's 2025 threat hunting report, it refers to aggressive identity-based tradecraft, other words, social engineering, as a major cause of intrusions, far outpacing malware. AI has lowered the barrier to entry for cybercrime and fueled a staggering number of attacks. The CIO of Arup, which I mentioned above, he said it best. If cyber attacks were bullets, we'd all be crawling on the floor because thousands of rounds would be coming through the window every second. 5 years ago, carrying out advanced attacks using custom malware and novel ransomware required significant skill. Today, the dark web offers plug-and-play cybercrime as a service, and now AI is doing the heavy lifting. Threat actors no longer need to painstakingly write malware from scratch or hire expert coders. They can simply leverage the equivalent of off-the-shelf AI tools to automate everything. In short, The increasing commoditization of AI has led to the democratization of cybercrime. For a modest licensing fee, someone with zero coding skills can run an exploit kit, feed it into a generative AI model, and quickly create tailored phishing campaigns, malware code, and even deepfake content. This means that any amateur with an internet connection, a credit card, or access to a crypto wallet can become a cyber threat actor. A recent survey report noted that mentions of malicious dark AI tools on cybercrime forums skyrocketed by, wait for it, 219% in 2024, and those are just mentions. Tools like Worm GPT, essentially a jailbroken ChatGPT for criminals, gained thousands of users and paying subscribers within months. Now, it's an uncomfortable truth. Attackers have been quicker to adopt AI than defenders. The reason for this imbalance is, well, cyber criminals face zero oversight. They aren't slowed down by compliance checks or ethics reviews or legal approvals. They never ask, should we do this? Only, can it help us steal? They're fundamentally pragmatists. If a tool works, they use it. In contrast, many organizations are still treading cautiously with AI, debating policies and worrying about potential pitfalls. While corporate stakeholders form committees to discuss responsible AI use, threat actors are charging ahead and weaponizing AI in any way possible, and the gap is widening daily. A Darktrace survey of security professionals in 2024 found that fewer half of companies had a formal strategy for using AI in their security program, and even fewer staff members truly understood the AI tools at their disposal. Meanwhile, studies show that 78% of CISOs are already feeling significant impacts from AI-powered threats. So as defenders, we can't simply afford to lag in AI adoption because the longer we wait, the more we cede the advantage to our adversaries. Now, to be clear, this does not mean that companies should deploy AI without proper governance, because it's vital that all stakeholders in an organization are aware that AI is in play. That means no shadow AI, and is being properly monitored and protected from compromise. Now, fortunately, AI is the most powerful tool that defenders have ever had. It can be an early warning system, a rapid response unit, a post-attack safety net. When used properly, it can be used as a force multiplier for security teams, helping catch things we'd otherwise miss and respond at machine speed. Now, here are several ways that AI shifts the balance back in our favor. Modern organizations generate terabytes of logs and data every day. No human can manually sift through all of that, but AI can. Machine learning models excel at establishing a normal baseline of behavior and then flagging the one log interactivity that doesn't fit. For example, AI-based monitoring can instantly spot a user logging in from a country the employee has never visited, or detect a sudden spike in database read volume at 2 a.m. These subtle anomalies, a dev account trying to access financial records, an admin downloading far more data than usual, this often indicates an intrusion or insider misuse. Properly configured AI doesn't get tired, doesn't miss patterns. It can catch a 1 in a million outlier event that could be the early warning of an attack. Many breaches that hadn't been discovered until it was too late can now be identified at the suspicious behavior stage before major damage is done. Now, AI is helping us move from reactive security to proactive defense. By analyzing historical incidents data and global threat intelligence, AI can forecast potential attacks so that organizations can shore up defenses in advance. If AI models notice a pattern of related vulnerabilities being exploited elsewhere, they can warn that an organization is likely to be the next target. Or if certain anomalous behaviors often precede a ransomware attack, like there are spikes in file renames coupled with disabled security services, AI can raise an alarm before encryption starts. This gives defenders time to act, We can isolate assets, patch systems, update rules, rather than simply responding after the fact. While predictive analysis and security is still evolving, it sure beats purely reactive postures. In an era of zero-day exploits and machine speed attacks, such foresight is priceless. In cyber defense, speed is everything. The faster you detect and contain an attack, the less harm it can do. AI-driven security systems can take action in milliseconds. For example, if malware is detected on any endpoint, think laptop, smartphone, IoT device, an AI-based endpoint protection platform can automatically quarantine the malicious file or even isolate the host from the network immediately. Cloud security AI might detect a user account behaving suspiciously and instantly lock the account or revoke its access. Network AI sensors can identify hacker-directed traffic and block the offending IP or domain on the fly. These automated responses can neutralize threats before an analyst has even read the alert. Identity security AI can detect when a login is anomalous and force multi-factor authentication or disable the session immediately. Automation buys time for human responders and can prevent a contained incident from turning into a full-blown breach. Of course, fine-tuning is important. You want AI to err on the side of safety without too many false positives, but the bottom line is that autonomous response drastically shrinks the window of opportunity for attackers. So when a breach does happen, AI can help reconstruct the attack timeline much faster than manual efforts. Investigating an incident often means piecing together millions of log entries, alerts, and artifacts to figure out what happened. A task tailor-made for AI's pattern recognition. In the past, forensic teams would spend weeks painstakingly sorting through logs to trace an attacker's steps from initial access to data exfiltration. By rapidly stitching together who did what and when, AI accelerates incident response and helps contain damage sooner. It can identify and enumerate compromised systems and even suggest what the heck the attackers were looking for. Now, this not only shortens downtime, but it also enables defenders to identify, isolate, and remove the threat and ensure that it stays out. Not all threats come from the outside, though. You know that. AI can also catch malicious or risky insider behavior that might slip past traditional security monitoring. By learning normal user behavior patterns when you log in, what systems you usually access, how much data you typically handle, AI can sound an alert when an employee or contractor begins acting out of character. In short, AI helps to identify potential compromising activity before data walks out the door. Then there's also the human factor. Security operations centers, or SOCs, are infamous for alert overload. An analyst might face literally thousands of alerts a day, most of them low priority or false positives, leading to alert fatigue where critical warnings are overlooked. This constant data deluge contributes to high burnout. Roughly 35 to 44% of SOC analysts report burnout symptoms, and their average tenure is only 1 to 3 years. But AI offers a lifeline by triaging and filtering the noise. Advanced AI-driven SOC platforms now ingest all the alerts, filter out the trivial or duplicate ones, bubble up the truly serious threats, and provide context automatically. The result is fewer and more actionable alerts for humans to handle. By some estimates, AI-based triage can reduce an analyst's workload by over 70%. And this is especially vital because 51% of security alerts occur outside normal business hours. Now, no human team can stay fully alert around the clock, but an AI monitor, it never sleeps. It handles routine detections and responses autonomously, only escalating to people when complex decisions are required. This not only improves response time, but also lets the security team focus on higher strategy and proactive threat hunting rather than drowning in a tsunami of alerts. And keep in mind, a less overwhelmed SOC is a more effective SOC. So as we wrap up, let's be clear. The threats are real, the stakes are high, and the pace of change is only accelerating. Cybersecurity is not a box to check or a project to finish. It's a core business function, a daily discipline, a shared responsibility. The price of prevention is always less than the cost of a breach, financially, reputationally, and operationally. And here's how we gain the upper hand. Reframe cybersecurity as a business survival issue and make it a standing agenda item in every board and every leadership meeting. Invest in your people. Relentless training, clear protocols, and a culture of vigilance are your first and best line of defense. Adopt a zero trust mindset. Trust nothing. Verify everything and segment access ruthlessly. Don't let the other guys outpace you. Leverage AI and automation by investing in AI-driven security tools, training your team to work alongside AI in a human plus machine partnership, and crafting an AI strategy that aligns with your business and threat profile. Now, if you listen to Bill Maher, he has a show every week. He's obsessed about robots taking over the world. I am not talking about handing everything over to robots, but it's about augmenting human experience with AI speed and scale. Now look, no question, AI will bring new risks and uncertainties, but it also brings unprecedented capabilities to improve cybersecurity, from real-time threat detection and automated containment to predictive threat prevention. In cybersecurity, there are no medals for second place, none. No participation trophies, no victory laps, because you can be secure at 9 a.m. and compromised at 9:01. So I want to thank you for your attention, and may your networks and your aquariums stay secure.